Évidemment, aujourd'hui, on a très hâte de présenter l'énoncé économique de l'automne. On sait que les Canadiens en arrachent ces jours-ci. C'est pour ça qu'on est en train d'investir dans de l'aide pour le logement à travers le pays. On est là pour aider avec les coûts de l'épicerie, y compris avec la compétition, plus de mesures au niveau de la compétition. On est là pour créer des bons emplois et des bonnes carrières pour les années à venir avec notre stratégie industrielle verte. Beaucoup à annoncer cet après-midi. J'ai bien hâte à ça. This afternoon, we're going to be presenting our fall economic statement, and it's focused on the fact that Canadians are having a tough time right now. So we're stepping up massively on housing in ways that are going to help people, both buyers and renters right across the country in the coming years as we build more supply. We're going to be moving forward on more competition measures to keep the prices of groceries in the affordable range. We're also moving forward on jobs and careers with a green industrial strategy that's going to help Canadians for decades to come.
Que pensez-vous quand vous voyez des résidents en médecine, des étudiants en droit qui se font tasser de leur stage parce qu'ils ont dit des choses pro-palestiniennes? Qu'est-ce que vous pensez de ce que ça nous dit de la liberté d'expression?
Je pense que les Canadiens ont besoin de se souvenir de qui nous sommes, là, que la liberté d'expression, la liberté de conscience, le respect pour d'autres avec qui on est en désaccord est fondamental à qui nous sommes en tant que pays. On est un pays qui réussit à faire la diversité mieux que bien d'autres places dans le monde, mais maintenant, à cause d'événements horrible et atroce qu'on voit tous les soirs dans les médias sociaux. Les gens sont polarisés, les gens font des deuils, les gens sont en colère et on a arrêté de s'écouter, de s'entendre. C'est pour ça que ça fait des semaines que j'essaie de rassembler les gens, de calmer un petit peu le jeu, mais en même temps, on est en train de voir trop de civils en train d'être tués. On voit Hamas qui continue d'utiliser des hôpitaux et des civils comme boucliers. On voit des femmes, des enfants tués par des attaques. On est dans une situation extrêmement difficile.
Est-ce qu'on devrait intervenir pour que ça n'arrive plus?
Je pense qu'on comprend à quel point les tensions sont élevées au Canada. On doit faire tout pour revenir à nos bases et nos valeurs en tant que Canadiens, de reconnaître que, oui, afficher un drapeau palestinien, ce n'est pas automatiquement de l'antisémitisme, que d'exprimer un appui pour l'État d'Israël ne fait pas de toi quelqu'un qui veut voir des civils tués. Mais on est dans une polémique qui est tellement fortement divisée maintenant qu'on est en train d'oublier un peu qui nous sommes et il faut se le rappeler. I think one of the challenges that we're seeing right now is that there is such hurt, there is such grief, there is such anger across the country because of what's going on in the Middle East, that people are forgetting a little bit that we're a country that protects the freedom of expression, that protects liberty of conscience, that respects and supports people even when we disagree with them across various points of view. That has been one of the strengths of Canada for our entire existence. We're a place that does diversity better than just about anywhere else. And we have to remember that just waving a Palestinian flag is not automatically anti-Semitism. And someone expressing grief for hostages taken is not an endorsement of dead civilians. The reality is the polarization we are seeing in Canada that is replicated around the world, the rise at the same time of anti-Semitism and Islamophobia, is really scary, not just for who we are as Canadians, but for any hope of seeing over the coming days, weeks, months, a move towards a two-state solution where a free, independent, safe Palestinian state is thriving alongside a free, independent, safe Jewish state of Israel. This is what we need to get to, and as long as Canadians are forgetting who we are and lashing out at each other for reasons of deep and understandable hurt, it becomes more difficult to actually do the kinds of things that the world needs Canada to be doing.
Minister, are you concerned the plant in Windsor is going to be using temporary force? Are you going to be concerned that the plant in Windsor, which is receiving billions in subsidies, is going to be using temporary foreign workers instead of Canadians?
Well, let's first of all, let's celebrate what we've achieved. This is going to be one of the largest battery plants in North America. We obviously want to maximize Canadian workers. I mean, this is obvious, and I've been in touch with the CEO of Stellantis yesterday to make sure of that. But what is even more important, I would say, is the CEO of the company who confirmed yesterday in the press that their commitment to hire 2,500 workers to work at the plant, and also to have about 2,000 construction jobs. So not only I've been in touch with Stellantis, I've been in touch also to the CEO of Unifor. So we're working hand in hand to make sure that we maximize opportunities for Canadians, as it should be. Now, we have to understand this is a new technology. We've never done batteries in North America, really. So you'll have a few people, very few people, selected people, who need to come to transfer technology because this is a new industry. But that being said, after that is to maximize the opportunities for Canadians. And that's why they came to Canada in the first place.
But what guarantees you have that they are actually going to, as you say, maximize the opportunities for Canadians and will not continue to draw from temporary foreign workers to do
Well, like I said, the CEO said it yesterday. You don't need to take it from me. He was on the record to say they confirmed that they'll be hiring 2,500 people. That's the CEO of the company who said that. And then they'll have 2,000 construction jobs, as we expected. And in the agreements we have with them, we always maximize local content. So for me, let's not lose sight of the opportunity. There'll be a transfer of knowledge, but that knowledge will help us to make sure that this plant is one of the most productive in the industry in North America. So let's not lose sight of the big picture. The big picture here is that we landed one of the largest battery plants in North America. We're going to maximize Canadian workers. We're going to have a transfer of knowledge, allowing us to be successful for decades to come.
Were you caught off guard by this news? Sorry, were you caught off guard? Seems like everyone's kind of surprised that this is what the plan is.
Oh, no, I mean, this is politics. This is, honestly, everyone expected. I mean, it's no different in Windsor than you find in other plants in North America where you need that transfer of knowledge with selected few people.
So you knew there were going to be temporary foreign workers?
No, not necessarily, but I'm saying I'm not surprised that you would have transfer of knowledge. No one has done batteries in North America before. So you need certain key people to transfer the knowledge, but to maximize, that's why they came in Canada, because they want Canadian workers. So like I said, maximizing Canadian workers, making sure that we build a plant. There's, the CEO said it yesterday, 2,500 jobs to operate the plant, about 2,000 workers to do the construction. So for me, let's not lose sight of the big picture. You'll have very few selected people to transfer knowledge. It's true in the plants in the United States as well as what you see in Canada, but this is about maximizing opportunities for Canadians.
À quel point il va y avoir des travailleurs canadiens donc, pour cette usine-là?
Ben, comme je vous dis, prenez du CEO. Là. Hier, le CEO s'est exprimé vraiment clairement. Il a dit qu'il y aurait 2500 emplois à l'usine même et plus de 2000 emplois dans le secteur de la construction. Donc, c'est lui qui l'a dit hier. Et nos contrats prévoient évidemment qu'on maximise les opportunités pour les Canadiens, ça va de soi. Mais ce que je disais à vos collègues en anglais, c'est sûr qu'il y a quelques travailleurs qu'on a besoin pour transférer les connaissances, parce qu'on n'a jamais fabriqué de batterie chez nous. Donc, il y a un transfert de connaissances qui va nous permettre ensuite de ça, d'avoir une usine qui va fonctionner pour nous.
Ces travailleurs seront seulement temporaires. Est-ce que ces travailleurs étrangers seront seulement temporaires?
Écoutez, l'idée derrière ça, c'est qu'il y a besoin d'avoir un transfert de technologie parce que c'est la première fois qu'on fait des batteries chez nous, au Canada, au Québec, en Amérique du Nord. Donc, il y a un transfert de connaissances. C'est une nouvelle industrie.
Donc, ce sera temporaire.
C'est un transfert de connaissances, mais comme on dit, l'opportunité, c'est évidemment, c'est de maximiser. C'est pour ça qu'ils sont venus chez nous.
Mais est-ce que ça sera temporaire?
Bien, écoutez, je vous dis, il y aura certaines personnes qui devront être là pour transférer la connaissance, mais ensuite de ça, l'idée derrière ça, comme le président l'a dit hier, moi j'ai parlé au président de Stellantis, j'ai parlé à la présidente de Unifor hier, on est tous alignés. L'opportunité, c'est pour les Canadiens et Canadiennes. Merci.
There seems to be some movement in lowering prices. Now, what did the government say to the grocery store chains to get them to bend now?
Well, listen, I'm never going to be satisfied. I mean, yes, you see some movement in the right direction, but this is something that's going to be ongoing for months. I'll be there to make sure that we always push for more. The real answer to that, honestly, is more competition in this country. That's why I've been pushing the opposition to make sure that, we adopt C-56, because ultimately what's going to bring, better price for Canadian is having more competition And as you know, I've been fighting to make sure that we have that kind of competition, and eventually to bring a new entrant potentially in the Canadian market to make sure that we put pressures on prices in Canada. But I would say more competition is what we need, and that's what C66 would be doing. So we're going to be pushing with the opposition party to get that done.
En français, pouvez-vous me dire si vous êtes satisfait des hausses des baisses de...
Ben écoutez, je ne serai jamais satisfait. Vous me connaissez, je ne suis pas de nature je pense qu'on a besoin de toujours faire plus pour les consommateurs. On a vu les rapports qui ont sorti la semaine dernière sur les revenus et les profits des compagnies dans le secteur. Moi, je vais continuer de me battre pour avoir une stabilité des prix. On voit une tendance qui va dans la bonne direction, mais vous me connaissez, c'est sûr qu'on va continuer de pousser. Puis ultimement, ce qu'on a besoin, c'est de plus de concurrence. C'est pour ça que je parle à différents acteurs pour voir comment on peut amener de la concurrence additionnelle dans le marché, parce qu'à long terme, c'est la meilleure façon d'assurer des meilleurs prix pour les Canadiens. Merci tout le monde. À tantôt. Merci, merci.
Minister, what's taken the government so long to table the online harms bill? I understand you are the lead on this now, but what do you say to critics who say the government's been promising this since the 2019 election and we still don't have a bill?
I'd say to people that are concerned about it that it is an absolute priority for me and many other cabinet ministers. I think what we've been hearing about in Canada from many different communities, given the ongoing crisis in the Middle East, is that online hatred is spreading repeatedly online, and it's manifesting in terms of actual violence in Canada. We've had attacks this weekend in Toronto. We've had shootings at schools in Quebec that deal with Jewish students. That's not what we need in this country, and I think an online hate bill can help to address that. In terms of the timing of it, I'm hoping to have positive news for you as soon as possible.
So what's the holdout?
Do you think it can be tabled before Christmas, before Parliament rises for Christmas?
My hope is that it is tabled soon, because I'm hearing that from stakeholders. I'm hearing that from concerned Canadians. I can't give you a definitive
Well,
time.
what's taking so long? Why is it taking so long?
The bill is a complex piece. If you recollect, in the previous election, we tabled a piece that relates to the justice pieces, that relates to the Canada Human Rights Act and the Criminal Code. When you talk about regulating online platforms and how that would look, it's much more complex. So thus,
It's been almost 2 years. I mean, obviously there's something that doesn't work. People are criticizing inside. I don't know.
well, I appreciate your questions because they come from the right place. Is that we need this bill now more than ever, and that's why I'm working to make sure that we get it across the finish line.
What do you think of the resident in U of A?
Mr. Fraser, what does it say that rent is still driving inflation in this country?
We know the rent's too high. We want to change that. Part of the strategy to change it is to build more homes so we can actually restore a level of affordability. We're making change at a pace that I think gives some optimism and encouragement not only to those of us who work in government, but to Canadians and communities. Just last week, for example, we released $4 billion in low-cost financing to builders who are going to build more apartments for rent, with a guarantee that they're going to be offering them at and below the market price that exists in the local markets today. When we continue to invest in projects that bring more supply online and get guarantees from builders that are going to be offered at reasonable prices, that's the kind of thing that's going to help. We know we're not yet where we want to be, but if we continue to make the investments at the pace we have been over the last number of months, I have some confidence we're going to be able to get there.
How do you
What's immediate
inflation
Can I-
that they're spending on housing and what's reported in today's fall economic statement? Some economists are worried that some of this spending will actually help fuel inflation, the money you're putting aside to spend on housing.
So one of the things that's really important to understand is when we're investing in housing, we're attacking a shortage in supply. The Governor of the Bank of Canada very recently had actually indicated that investments when we're dealing with a supply shortage in housing can actually have an impact that reduces inflation, certainly at a household level. But it's not lost on us that across the suite of programs we advance as a government, we have to maintain a reasonable level of spending, so we're not working against the measures that both the bank put in place and that our government's been focused on to bring inflation down. I was very excited to see that inflation has slowed to 3.1% today, very close to the target range for the Bank of Canada. But just to put into perspective some of the importance of being thoughtful about this, when we're looking at programs like the one I just described, where we're providing low-cost financing, that's actually money that gets paid back. And the vast majority of it, if not all of it, actually comes back. So the fiscal hit to government is essentially, it's close to zero. Of course, when you're passing on the rate of borrowing the government gets, there may be a small cost over time. given the changing landscape in the economy. But when we put policies in place that don't dramatically change the fiscal picture, but unlock construction of homes where there's a shortage, we can actually bring inflation down by reducing the cost of living for families who live in those units.
What immediate
OK, merci. C'est très important pour respecter la position fiscale du gouvernement du Canada pour lutter à l'inflation. Il y a bonne nouvelle ce matin avec le taux d'inflation est juste à 3,1%. C'est une bonne chose, mais c'est important de continuer notre travail. C'est très important de comprendre, ce n'est pas le cas comme chaque politique a augmenté l'inflation. Alors, juste pour exemple, l'initiative pour financement du logement pour le logement locatif. Merci pour votre patience. C'est important de réorganiser les organisations qui construisent du logement. Comment dire, repay? Or payback?
Remboursement.
OK, merci. Remboursement, les fonds de le gouvernement. Mais parce que le gouvernement utilisait les termes favorables pour les développeurs, c'est possible pour le gouvernement de minimiser l'impact fiscal, mais en même temps adresser le défi avec le besoin de construire des autres logements partout dans notre pays. It's very important that we respect the fiscal picture and also address the supply challenges, but we can do it in a way where we don't necessarily exacerbate inflation challenges.
What immediate relief, if any, is there going to be in this fall economic statement for people struggling with housing today, struggling to pay rents today? I understand we're talking about long-term plans and strategies and unlocking money and loans, but that's in the long term that doesn't seem to be responding to the affordability crisis Canadians find themselves in today.
Look, I'm not going to spoil the details of the fall economic statement that's going to be tabled in Parliament in a few short hours. Suffice it to say, there's going to be certain areas that we look to move both in the short term and the long term to unlock the supply of homes, which can have a short-term impact by releasing new homes in the market. The different areas that we can continue to look for is to continue to finance construction, but we can also look at other supply that's locked up, for example, through short-term rentals. We also want to do what we can to make sure people who are struggling with potential mortgage renewals have the opportunity to benefit from different programs that banks can put in place to reduce the impact of a changing rate of interest. But there's a number of different measures that you should expect to see, but it's going to be very clear that at the end of the day today, housing is a major focus of this year's fall economic statement.
Comment vous aidez les gens maintenant avec le logement? C'est quoi les mesures déjà qu'on peut s'attendre peut-être à avoir?
Juste pour la personne avec les défis maintenant?
Exactement.
OK, les mêmes questions.
Oui.
Oh, OK, merci. Alors, c'est très important de reconnaître. Nous avons besoin d'avancer des politiques qui adressent le défi pour le long terme et aussi de créer une situation qui améliorer la situation pour les familles au court terme aussi. Pour les programmes qui continuent de faire des investissements pour construire des logements, c'est possible pour avancer de financement avec un coût très bas. OK, je m'excuse. Mais aussi, c'est possible pour créer des programmes et des expectations avec des institutions financières pour adresser les défis pour la personne avec, qui a besoin de renouveler les prêts. Je ne sais pas le mot pour une mortgage.
Un prêt hypothécaire.
OK. Un prêt
Hypothécaire.
Hypothécaire? OK, hypothécaire. OK, merci. C'est un nouveau mot pour moi. Mais c'est très important pour continuer de faire des investissements pour le court terme et le long terme aussi. OK, merci.
OK, je vais juste parler de deux choses. Oui, je vais avoir une déclaration, ça sera pas longtemps. Je vais laisser mon collègue pouvoir finir. OK, good. Hello, Sean. Okay, so I'll start by two things. I'll address the hostage deal between, the potential hostage deal between Israel and Hamas. But let me first talk to you about the two Michaels. First and foremost, when it comes to the two Michaels, their arbitrary detention was completely unjust and unacceptable. And the notion that the two Michaels would have been involved in espionage activities only perpetuates the false narratives under which they were detained by China. And Canadians were relieved when the two Michaels came back home. These two men went through an unbelievably difficult situation, and I think that we can all be inspired by their resilience and strength. Donc, je vais le dire en français, and then I'll talk about the hostages potential deal. J'aimerais vous parler de la question des deux Michael. Lorsqu'on pense aux deux Michael, bien entendu, on pense au fait à leur détention arbitraire. Et la détention arbitraire des deux Michael était complètement injuste, injustifiée et inacceptable. Le fait, la notion, l'idée même que les deux Michael aient été impliqués dans des activités d'espionnage fait juste perpétuer la fausse justification utilisée par la Chine pour leur détention arbitraire. Alors, on le sait, on a tous été très contents lorsqu'ils sont revenus au Canada. Et donc, dans les circonstances, on sait que ces deux hommes-là ont vécu une situation infernale, extrêmement difficile, et je pense qu'on peut voir à quel point ils sont source d'inspiration. Now, on the question of a potential hostage deal between Israel and Hamas, first and foremost, I had a long conversation with Tony Blinken on this very issue on Friday, and I had contacts this morning again with my Qatari counterpart. Our representative on hostage affairs, Judy Sunday, was in Israel last week. She also went to Egypt and Qatar to make sure to advocate for the hostage releases and to push for Canadians to be able to get out of Gaza. At this point, what we expect from this deal is we want to make sure that all hostages are released, that all foreign nationals are allowed to get out of Gaza, including, of course, the around 200 Canadians that are still in Gaza, and humanitarian need to be able to get in, and way more than it has been allowed to at this point. And so we are still calling for humanitarian pauses, a humanitarian truce, which would lead to a potential ceasefire. So that's for the comment in English. Let me say it in French now, and then we'll get there, guys. So, lorsqu'on pense à la question d'une entente potentielle entre l'Israël et le Hamas, j'ai eu une longue conversation avec mon collègue américain Tony Blinken vendredi sur cette question. Et puis, j'ai eu encore des contacts ce matin avec mon homologue qatari. Notre haut responsable aux affaires d'otages a été en Israël la semaine passée. Elle était également en Égypte et a été au Qatar. Ce qu'on s'attend à toute forme de négociation, c'est que, premièrement, que tous les otages soient libérés. Deuxièmement, que tous les binationaux puissent quitter Gaza, bien entendu les Canadiens. Et finalement, on s'attend à ce qu'il y ait beaucoup plus d'aide humanitaire qui puisse être acheminée à Gaza. Et donc, dans les circonstances, on en appelle à des pauses humanitaires, une trêve humanitaire qui pourra mener, on l'espère, à un cessez-le-feu.
I just want to clarify, do you want to see a ceasefire? You said this could potentially lead to a ceasefire. Can you clarify Canada's position? Do you want to see a ceasefire?
Well, our objective right now is that finally humanitarian pauses are allowed to happen. And we think that this potential deal could lead to a form of eventually ceasefire, but first it needs to happen. We need to see humanitarian pauses. We've been calling for humanitarian pauses for now weeks, and we haven't seen any. And so that's why we're looking forward to see how this potential deal could be implemented by both parties, because we know, of course, right now that the situation in Gaza is completely dire, and at the same time, hostages need to be released. We need to see Canadians also out of Gaza.
À quel point vous y croyez qu'il y a une entente? Est-ce que c'est vraiment sérieux? Ça vous apparaît sérieux selon vous?
Les derniers signes sont positifs, et donc la dernière information que j'ai aussi me donne confiance, Mais bien entendu, ça fait maintenant des semaines qu'il y a des négociations. Donc, voilà.
What is your understanding of how close the sides are to reaching a deal? Can you just kind of quantify that for us if you have the ability? Like, how close are we to a potential deal here?
Well, signs are positive, so that's good news, but negotiations have been happening for now weeks. So, of course, I'll be extremely confident when it is announced. But of course, we know that at this point, negotiations have been very, very difficult, but they're important and need to happen.
Que voulez-vous voir Israël faire pour intervenir sur le traitement infligé à des Palestiniens en Cisjordanie par des colons juifs?
Oui, donc j'ai fait une déclaration à ce sujet hier. Bien entendu, nous condamnons toute forme de violence par des colons extrémistes juifs. C'est une très grande préoccupation que nous avons et on peut pas penser qu'il puisse y avoir une solution à deux États si cette violence continue. Alors, c'était important pour moi et pour nous de faire en sorte. Et donc, c'est important pour nous, premièrement, de faire cette déclaration-là et on en appelle à ce qu'Israël puisse cesser cette violence-là. Parce qu'on sait que présentement, il y a une guerre à Gaza, mais il y a aussi une très grande préoccupation par rapport aux tensions qui ont lieu en Cisjordanie. Parfait. Merci beaucoup. Merci.
I know when I came earlier to talk about LG Stellantis, you had more questions, if I recall. So I made sure I should look at you, I guess. I should look at you. I wanted to make sure that we could, answer all the questions. So let me a bit recap the situation where we are. There's been reports in the press about the LG Stellantis plant and how we can maximize opportunities for Canadians. So yesterday, I did talk to the CEO of Stellantis in the United States to bring him up to speed to the situation we're facing in Canada. I asked him to take action and to make sure that we respect not only the letter, but also the spirit of our contract with the company, which is to maximize the number of opportunities for Canadians. And yesterday, the CEO of the joint venture between LG and Stellantis came out with a statement that says that they will honor their commitment to have 2,500 workers working at the plant. And if I recall well, about 2,000 construction jobs that will be created for Canadians. Our job, as always, with these generational investments is to bring opportunities for Canadians and to address any issue there is. We have seen also comments from Pierre Poilievre yesterday. Not surprising, he's been against, these investments since the beginning. He has nothing to show for it to support the auto workers. And that's why we've been also in touch with the unions to make sure that we speak with one voice. And when we say that, leaving politics aside, that's the job of Poilievre to try to talk down our industry and our workers and focusing on reality, which is maximizing opportunities for Canadians, making sure that we'll have one of the largest battery plants in Canada, and making sure that this will be a generational opportunity for workers, but also small and medium-sized businesses, not only in the Windsor area in Ontario, but across Canada. So we thought it was important to make sure that we present the facts as they are, and our commitment, each of us, to work very closely with the unions, with the company, and with the community to make sure that our vision, which is to bring these generational investments, will benefit as many people as possible here in Canada.
What's the number of temporary foreign workers that are going to be involved in this project? Can you just clarify, Windsor Police at 1,600, is it more than that, less than that, what's the number?
So I think we have to take a look at the facts. And in my Department of Employment Social Development Canada, there's been one labour market impact assessment conducted. And what does that mean? It means a job is posted, and if no Canadian applies, then the company can have somebody come in and fill that position. There's one temporary foreign worker that's been approved for this project. There's a distinction between temporary foreign workers and foreign workers, which Minister Miller can talk about, but there is no justification that we can see for the number that the South Korean ambassador raised with 1,600 people. There is technology transfer that takes place in these kind of setups, but I can tell you there's one temporary foreign worker that's been approved for this project so far.
La question, M. Champagne, c'est dans votre conversation avec le CEO, est-ce qu'ils vous ont indiqué dans ces 2500, plus peut-être 2000 constructions de jobs, combien d'emplois qui viendraient de l'étranger dans ce total-là?
Écoutez, la discussion, ça a toujours été le 2500, ça, c'est des emplois canadiens. C'est-à-dire que ça, c'est l'affirmation du président hier, et il a dit, c'est ce qu'on avait estimé aussi, environ 2000 emplois dans le domaine de la construction. Maintenant, c'est clair que quand on amène une nouvelle industrie, une nouvelle technologie, non seulement au Canada, mais en Amérique du Nord, c'est sûr qu'on a besoin d'avoir un transfert de connaissances. Et ça, oui, c'est sûr qu'on a besoin d'avoir des gens qui vont venir chez nous faire ce transfert-là de connaissances. Mais une fois que ça, c'est fait, on s'attend, et c'est pour ça quand on a négocier ces accords-là avec la compagnie, qu'on maximise les opportunités, non seulement pour les travailleurs-travailleuses, mais aussi pour les PME qui seraient dans l'écosystème qui va être créé.
Dans ce transfert-là, ceux qui feraient le transfert, il y a combien de personnes et ils seraient là surtout combien de temps?
Bien, écoutez, habituellement, puis le nombre précis, on va le voir avec le temps parce que vous savez, on bâtit quelque chose d'une envergure qu'on a rarement vu au Canada. Vous parlez non seulement on va faire l'assemblage des modules, mais on va aussi faire les cellules. Donc, parler d'un site industriel d'une importance qu'on a rarement vu au Canada. Alors, il va y avoir des gens, je pense, à certaines occasions qui vont venir parce qu'il y a de la machinerie spécialisée, on a besoin de ces compétences-là, mais l'idée derrière ça, et c'est là qu'il faut laisser la politique de l'autre côté puis parler des faits. Les faits qu'on dit, c'est qu'on maximise l'opportunité pour les Canadiens et les Canadiennes. Le PDG s'est exprimé en disant qu'il y aura 2500 emplois, il y aura environ 2000 emplois dans la construction. Et oui, il y aura à certains moments certains individus qui devront venir chez nous pour transférer ces connaissances-là, pour qu'on puisse non seulement opérer cette usine-là, mais aussi développer la batterie du futur chez nous. Non, parce que ça va varier, je pense, avec le temps. Mais ce qui est important, c'est le 2500 que le PDG a confirmé hier et le 2000 emplois dans la construction. Puis moi, je vous dirais, moi, je l'ai négocié. Une des raisons qu'ils sont venus chez nous, mes collègues le savent très bien, c'est la compétence des travailleurs. Les gens savent que les travailleurs canadiens ont la compétence. Parmi les meilleures usines dans le domaine de l'automobile sont ici au Canada. Donc, c'est clair qu'ils sont venus pour ça. Maintenant, est-ce qu'on peut avoir des gens pour du transfert de compétences, de technologie? C'est sûr que ça fait partie quand on met ça. Listen, when you have plant of that magnitude, let's go back. You know, we won one of the largest plants in North America for battery. You always expect, and it's no different in U.S. plants, by the way, is that since we did not have the technology, we didn't have that knowledge, you need people from time to time that would come and just make sure that we can install the machinery, and then sure that they teach to our people so that new technology that will be needed in order to be successful. But listen, it will vary over time, but what is fundamental is we maximize opportunities for Canadians. The CEO of the company yesterday was very clear. He said 2,500 jobs in the plan, about 2,000 construction jobs. Our job, collectively, my job, is to maximize opportunities for workers, for SMEs, and I've been talking to the CEO of Stellantis yesterday, and I've been talking also to Lana Payne of Unifor. So we're united in that, and that's why I deplore what I've seen yesterday by Pierre Poilievre tried to make politics out of this. This is a win for Canada. This is a win for our workers. This is a win for our industry, and we're going to be there to make sure that we
training Canadian workers. I'm just trying to understand what.
Well, you know, you have.
They've had the labor assessment done by Minister Boissonnault.
Yeah, there is.
So what was part of that assessment to determine that these with the number?
Well, I'll let Minister Boissonnault, but you might, you know, it's fair to assume that when you're bringing, you know, battery manufacturing was mainly done in Asia, you know. With the IRA, we've seen a number of companies coming in North America. There are some specific ways or technology and knowledge you need in order to I would say, to be able to operate these plants. So what we said is that, yeah, we expect from time to time people would come to do transfer of knowledge. It's not unique, but when you have a new industry, that's something we want so that we can have our workers now gain that knowledge, that experience and expertise so that we can operate the plant and build the battery of the future. Now, with respect to how much and when, I'll let Minister Boissonnault, but I would expect this needs to be a fairly small number, and because our intention and our agreement is to maximize opportunities for Canadians.
So in this case, the person can stay for up to 2 years if they wish. That's the terms of the application. But like I said, we've had one LMIA, and LMIAs have very strict rules that they have to be posted for a certain number of time, and if there are no Canadians that apply, then the company can actually bring people here, and that's a temporary foreign worker. They will have to go back home after their time here doing the technology transfer is done. Oui, pour le moment, on a vu seulement une étude de marché de travail temporaire pour une personne qui est venue ici au Canada pour aider avec Stellantis. Et comme Ministre Champagne a dit, c'est pour aider avec le transfert de connaissances pour faire les installations à cette usine de batterie. C'est très important parce que c'est nouveau pour nous ici au Canada, mais le focus, c'est que les emplois sont pour les Canadiens. Et ce qui est très important de noter aussi, c'est que quand les gens viennent ici pour travailler dans une usine en Ontario, il faut qu'ils soient certifiés par le gouvernement de l'Ontario aussi. Donc, il y a plusieurs éléments qui protègent les travailleurs canadiens, et c'est le même cas ici dans le cas de Stellantis.
But if there are indeed hundreds of applications, how likely is your department to approve?
We'll be following each one of these applications very closely, and if Canadians apply to the LMTA, if a Canadian applies and there's no vacancies, then there won't be any other people coming. And so it's a case-by-case basis, but I am very clear as Minister Champagne, working with Unifor and working with our local MPs to make sure that these are high-paying jobs, union jobs, prevailing wages, because that's the deal that we made, and that's the expression we have when it comes to bringing new world-class battery manufacturing plants to Canada.
Just a couple of things, because I think it's important to specify that we do have a free trade agreement with South Korea, and under Article 186 of that agreement, people do come and go on business visas or visa-free, and they can stay if they are within the ambit of the reasons why they are here. If they are not, CBSA will investigate. That's just the reality of things. The important thing in this is obviously the numbers don't seem credible, but we've only had fewer than 100 people that have come in. They are training people up, as Minister Champagne said. Again, if there are reasons to believe that these people are going outside the reasons they are here, CBSA will investigate, and we fully expect them to do so. Again, not a single Canadian job that's been promised will be affected by this, but people do come and go as part of our free trade agreement with South Korea, just like Canadian companies get that same benefit when they're in South Korea.
But this is the conclusion on our part. You're hearing these numbers like 1,600 workers. We're hearing already a few Korean workers already. They're training them, but we've been told there's only one LMIA. Can you kind of explain why we're not anticipating more?
So there's a difference between a temporary foreign worker that comes here for a very specific amount of time and a foreign worker that comes in through immigration, to what Minister Miller just said, which is to help with that technology transfer. Think about a Canadian company going overseas to set up one of our Canadian technology companies. We're going to want Canadians to be there to help with that technology transfer. That's the same thing that's happening right now through Minister Miller's department. But I can say that when it comes to temporary foreign workers that get to come here for a temporary amount of time because no Canadian wants the job, one application has been approved.
Grocery prices.
Yes, sir.
You talk to the CEO. He's going to, according to Toronto Star, they're freezing all their prices until January, following along with a practice for most grocery chains that they do freeze prices between November and January, let's say. So is this something that Empire is doing? They're freezing prices? Is this something you've negotiated with them?
Well, listen, my job from day one with my colleague has been to stabilize pricing in Canada. As you know, when I summoned the grocers to come to see us in Ottawa, the first thing I express is the frustration of millions of Canadians. Every Thursday, every Friday, every Saturday, we go groceries. And I ask them to be part of the solution. I've seen a number of actions. Sobeys is the latest one. We've seen a number of actions from some grocers which seem to go in the right direction, in the sense that we see that they have expanded, programs that they're offering to Canadians. I expect more. I won't be satisfied with that, but I see that it's a step in the right direction, and we need to continue.
Freezing all its prices till January?
Well, I see my understanding of what I've seen this morning is an expansion of a practice that they were doing. My point has been, I fixed them a target, which was to help us stabilize price in Canada. The how, I want competition to play, and that's what you're saying, because you expect that when Sobeys is doing something, I would expect and I would demand that the others are looking also at what they're doing to support Canadians, particularly as we're coming now to the Christmas seasons. And therefore, we'll be following on that. We're seeing, encouraging sign. But the real answer to that over the mid to long term is more competition in Canada in the grocery sector. And that's also something Bill C-56 will help that. I keep saying, if Pierre Poilievre wants to do something for Canadians, we know he's not going to do anything for the auto workers. He's not going to do anything to bring investment in Canada. There's one thing he could do with his team, is to vote for C-56, because that would bring amendment to the Competition Act that we much need in Canada, first to be able to have a better sense of the market, because we'll have subpoena power, and we're going to be able to also restrict and remove these practices where, for example, when you have one grocer in a commercial center, others can come. These restrictive clauses will be made illegal. So if he wanted to do one thing, he's not doing much, but if he wanted to do one thing to help Canadians, vote for C-56, give us the tools in the toolbox that everyone agrees in Canada we need, more competition that will bring us lower prices across different sectors of the industry. We'll have less consolidation, and that's what Canadians need, and that's what the Canadian economy needs.
Short term, do
Last
Canadians,
question,
is that enough, just an extension of industry practice that really benefits?
Listen, it's never enough. You're never going to tell me a mission accomplished. I'll be on their back for weeks and months. It's never enough. But every sign in the right direction is a good thing. You know, if they say we were doing this and we're doing that, well, you know, who's winning is Canadians. My job is to make sure Canadians win each and every day. And it's always a good day to fight for Canadians. I won't stop. You know, I'm saying that. I say, okay, going in the right direction, but we need more. And that's what I'm going to be pushing. Not only me, our colleagues, our government, our caucus, and Canadians. Because the biggest power is the spending power of Canadians. So Canadians will see those who are offering more and those who are not joining in the effort that we need to stabilize price in Canada. Merci tout le monde. We have to go because we have a job to do.